So this is basically the agenda for today. Just so you know, we're going to actually delve deeper into the next level of agile development. We'll start off with the a recap and setting the context for the agile principles and concepts. We'll then have a look at the Agile Manifesto, very, very powerful. About 20 years ago now, I think this was introduced by the so-called experts of software development. They actually presented this manifesto, and that became very powerful. It's just a 4-line, kind of a document that they presented, and then that drove the whole success of agile development uptake in the last few decades. Very, very powerful. And then we'll have a look at the 3 pillars of agile. We'll have a look at the core values of what drive the agile principle. Then we'll look at how we need to engage the key stakeholders in agile. We'll also look at the PDCA. We'll have a quick look at the PDCA cycle, the continuous development, continuous integration, continuous delivery. And then we'll have a look at very important concept of time boxing in agile. Very, very critical for agile development. You need to time box. You need to make sure that whatever we do, we have a time box in terms of whether it is in days, weeks, or months. So we'll start looking at how critical time boxing is for agile. We'll look at the very important aspect of definition of done and definition of ready. Again, this lies at the heart of agile development. Whether you're looking at Scrum, Lean, Kanban, SAFe, whatever it is, it doesn't matter the methodology. What is important in this context is how you would define your success criteria, how you can say that your sprint or iteration is really successful. So that's where the definition of done would come in. You actually define that. It's called DOD, definition of done, and you do it for pretty much every story as well, or you can actually do it at the level of the iteration or the sprint. And then we'll also have a look at definition of ready. Again, very critical. You need to understand when a story can actually be taken into development. When can you actually say that this is now ready for development? It's good enough. So just like how we say for the requirements, that them to be complete, correct, and not abstract. It should be well defined. It should have the invest principle for the story. Similarly, for a particular set of stories or a sprint or backlog, when can we say that it is actually ready for development? So again, very, very critical for agile development, very practical as well, these two, definition of done and definition of ready. So you need to know these very, very clearly. And then we'll also have a look at software testing. Very important, because testing is critical for the success of software products, especially when it comes to agile, because you're not actually putting testing at the end of the development, unlike the traditional waterfall. When you have requirements, you start with requirements, then you get into the architecture, then you get into the design, then you develop something, and then that's exactly after about the 4th or the 5th stage, you actually introduce testing there. So which is perhaps at the real end of the fag end of the tail of the development, you would introduce testing. So you're talking about an year of the life cycle of the project. That's when you get testers, and then they'll start looking at how we can test this product from functional perspective, from unit testing perspective. But in agile, it's completely different. Testing starts on the day one. You need to actually start with the mindset. That's what TDD. We'll have a look in detail about the test-driven development, which is about you write the test cases even before you write the requirements. So you start off with writing the test cases and then test them. Obviously, they'll fail the first time around. So you actually execute the product, make sure that it is actually developing the functionality, and then you test. So it goes on and on till you succeed in testing that. So in getting that pass. So with agile, the fact that you actually kind of constrict the timelines of a particular release from a year to actually kind of 2 to 3 weeks, it's very important that whatever that goes out of the door to the market, to your customer and the users, is really of good quality, and therefore testing is very, very important. In fact, there's an altogether completely different perspective about testing that they say if you want to succeed with testing in software with agile development, you actually need to automate the complete automation of testing. So you can't rely on people, because you can't, you know, we tend to make mistakes. We as humans have got that problem with doing human error. So with automation, you actually bring in that kind of end-to-end testing, right from the stage you develop through to the stage you actually put it on the onto the production environment, the live environment. It actually gets tested all the way through in terms of the automated running of test cases, and then they do the testing, and then the test results get reported. So again, we'll have a look at each of these in greater detail today and tomorrow. So that's kind of, with that, we would try and end this, this part 2 of the agile development. And from the next week, we're actually getting deeper and deeper into the methodologies. Scrum will have a separate session on Scrum. The next week, we'll talk about all the roles, the responsibilities, the techniques, the sprint ceremonies like sprint planning, sprint retrospective, the daily stand-up, the sprint execution. We'll talk about what happens in the kind of sprint planning, all those details. We'll go each one, detail one by one in terms of the methods. So we'll spend that the entire sessions, 1 or 2 sessions only on Scrum the next week. And then later we'll go through to the Lean, then you go to Kanban. So that way you're better equipped with each of these methods. So you're not really getting confused between these, because each of them has got a completely different tool set, different concepts, different set of values, even though fundamentally all of these are agile methods. So what is it that makes them agile? I think that's what we're going to discuss in today's session. So very, very practical, very fundamental, the foundation, the cornerstone of all agile methods is basically what we're going to discuss today and tomorrow. So with this, you can actually kind of say, hey, this is agile, this is not agile. What we're doing is agile, vis-a-vis what we're doing is not agile. So you can actually kind of crystal clear, you can say that this is actually contributing to agile development or not. So we'll have a look at each of these, the core values, the principles, and the foundation aspects of agile.